Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. How is everyone doing today? Okay, give it a few seconds here just to make sure that the recording actually kicks in, but I'll get started. Some housekeeping before we do get continued here. The webinar is going to be recorded, like I mentioned. It will be available after the presentation is completed, and for people especially who aren't able to make the call today. The webinar itself expected to run between 30 and 40 minutes. It's kind of typically how it goes, maybe shorter or longer, but we don't expect it to run any longer than 40 minutes, at least. So, a quick introduction before we get started. My name is Brian Fehl. I'm the IT director at First Basis Consulting. With me here is Bill Oliver, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Good afternoon, I'm Bill Oliver. I'm Director of Technical Services of Americas with SecurityBridge, and we hope to show you some good stuff this afternoon.
Absolutely. Brian? Yeah, so we've partnered together to help companies kind of get a leg up on, security for the SAP environments. And that's kind of what this whole presentation is going to be about today. Why is SAP security so important? I think, a lot of people understand, security is important in the IT world. Why SAP specifically, we'll be going over that. What an effective SAP security strategy looks like, and how the SecurityBridge platform can actually help you with that and help augment your team. And we'll also go over how First Basis and how our partnership with SecurityBridge works, and how we help you increase your SAP security posture and get your systems as secure as they can be. As far as questions, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can feel free to type them into the chat, and I will get them as they come in, or me and Bill. There will also be a Q&A session at the end of the demo as well. So why does SAP need to be secured? IT security in general is something that a lot of companies know is important, and they focus on it. SAP, as the application platform, it's used in, depending on how the company uses it, it's typically involved in a lot of sensitive company information, such as payroll, invoices, client data, a lot of things that could be very valuable to a malicious party or an attacker. SAP itself has the largest ERP market share in the world, making it a prime target for malicious actors. And regards to that, between mid-2020 and March 2021, it was noted that 1 in every 5 cyber attacks against SAP systems were successful in actually exploiting them. That's a 20% effective exploitation of SAP environments. Considering how critical that data is, this is a very bad sign. And I think a lot of why that is while IT teams focus on security for networking, hardware, operating systems, the typical building blocks of your business, the applications and SAP itself is often overlooked as a potential vector. If you all recall, a few months ago, we've had that big CVE for the web dispatcher, which would allow an attacker coming in remotely for an SAP system to take total control of the underlying system that the web dispatcher connected to. And I'm sure you've all had to deal with that process of going through and mitigating that in an urgent fashion, considering how difficult it was. SAP as a code platform, if not maintained, has kind of a snowball effect in terms of the vulnerabilities that you're going to see over time. Your IT security team, dealing with SAP is kind of like dealing with the Great Wall of China. The application code base itself is massive. It has all different kinds of components, spanning different kinds of manufacturing and invoicing. Just a gigantic piece of software, and trying to manage that with a single security team can be very overwhelming. The SecurityBridge as a platform is used to arm your IT security team with the tool that they actually need to be able to get a handle on this in an automated fashion. You imagine doing manual monitoring for security is kind of like walking that big wall, whereas SecurityBridge as the platform is an automated fashion of doing that. and you're trying to protect against, all kinds of malicious or incidental, accidental threats from, outside hackers, state agencies, or state actors and intelligence agencies, your average script kiddies, and individual targeted hackers, or even people inside the company, either malicious, intentionally or otherwise, that can, affect your SAP security. Questions so far? So what SecurityBridge does is it is a monitoring tool that is monitoring various aspects of your, or I should say attack vectors of your SAP installations. This includes vulnerability management, which is things like, is there configuration settings in your SAP system that are making it insecure? Do you have, plain text connections in your environment? Mishandled SSL configuration, things like that. Patch management, are you up to date with your latest hot news or your urgent updates from SAP and themselves? Code scanning, this kind of goes into more of people on the inside, your developers who are actually making your custom code that makes your business work. Are you actually, protecting against either accidental or intentional vulnerabilities that are introduced by this code? And from a threat detection perspective, monitoring and notification for unauthorized intrusion attempts or malicious activity, again, intentional or otherwise. Questions so far? With that, I'm going to jump over to Bill here, and he's actually going to give you a kind of a run through of the SecurityBridge platform and how it looks and how it works. Let me switch it over to you here, sir. Okay, you should be there.
Should be coming up right now. You should see SecurityBridge, and thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. As Brian was saying, we showed a couple of things on event monitoring, security, security compliance, some of the code vulnerabilities, some of the patching, and today I'm going to hopefully go through some of that stuff and show you how SecurityBridge as a product can help you with and do all that great stuff with you. The first thing I did want to do is walk through a little bit on a little bit of the architecture of SecurityBridge. If you're looking at my screen right now, you're seeing Fiori tiles, and from that perspective, we're in SAP.
We're seeing the wrong screen, Bill, just an FYI.
No. Oh, let's change that. You're seeing a wonderful picture of a vacation setting.
There we go.
How's that? A little better? There you go. You got to have one thing in a webinar. It doesn't work out. So you'll see this is Fiori. So we are basically in SAP. We are based in Fiori. We use that as our front end. We run on the stack, no problems with that. Basically install through a series of transports or Java beans. We do monitor some of the Java and some of the newer systems, including success factors. So we kind of do those things. So from that perspective, that's kind of where we are. So the first thing I want to talk about is a little bit about event monitoring. And you'll see the tile over here. And with this is kind of our single pane of glass. This kind of tells you where things are happening, what's been happening in your system. And this is real time. We have a collector that collects all these events from all your SAP systems. We bring it into one, that single pane of glass, our controlling system, if you would. And one of the things I want to show is, click on our highs, and you'll see we got a pretty good amount of them here today. It's being a dev system. But really want to talk to you about all the things that we listen for. And this is kind of, we call this event monitoring. If you're a little aged like myself, intrusion detection system would be another one. And again, talking about some of the things Brian mentioned earlier, you'll see some of those things where really SAP security, it's not just about roles and profiles and users anymore, like not SU01 or PFCG or those kind of things. It's a little changed now. And really, if you're going to be involved in it, you're going to have to take a step. You're going to have to start thinking more as a holistic security position. And we monitor these things on our listeners, and kind of with regards to one of the things we look at is every 2 to 3 minutes, we're making sure none of these are happening in the event monitor, the intrusion detection system. We have about 100 listeners. You see some of these. I kind of like the 105 user account changes for cover up, the 109 debug. Somebody's trying to go in and do some debugging action. 17 is also one of my more favorite ones, which is the failed logon attempts from a hidden account. 18 if somebody's going in and running some OS commands trying to break through. For this case, let's drill down a little bit and see what we found. We've got a nice one here where we'll go in this one. And we also do have email notifications and something called hyperlogging, where email notification is, if it happens immediately, we would immediately send an email out saying, hey, someone is doing this. This is a scenario here. You've got to be careful with it. We also do, in certain cases where we feel someone is doing something malicious or vindictive, we tend to go after hyperlogging, where what we'll do is we'll immediately turn on what's happening with that user, and we're watching the string of what's happening at that moment in time, so we can capture exactly, hey, the user started debug, and then they went into a purchase order, then they changed the address, then they went into the bank account, and then they did this. We're catching all that to make the story, to make sure you know exactly what is and isn't happening, which is very, very big on that case here. I'm going to click on this one here for me. And you'll see, we grab through this, and you'll see right here, we'll aggregate. And what this tells me is some of the things that are happening in my system holistically related to these items. So you'll see here, I've got assignment of critical authorizations of a cover-up. I've got my debugging in AE1, and these are some of the demo systems. Remote function calls by filters. Things you want to keep an eye on, things that are sensitive. And again, you can set up the password notifications. You can also reduce this, make it as a trusted identity, make it lower in how bad it is, lower in priority, and basically just whitelisted if you're accepting that risk. And like in development, tracking a debugging action is probably something you would whitelist and take that from that scenario. We go back here, we'll just click on this. And you'll see over here, it gives you a little bit about what we're talking about, what they did, a little bit again, more about some of the definitions and stuff. And what we can do here is clear this out. And you'll see a little bit about what actually happened, who did it, what they did, their timeline, on where they went, and some of the things they were doing, some of the raw data, actually the things that they were pulling and things that we're substituting and changing on, as well as some of the other event attributes and settings, where they were in kind of that scenario. And that's something, again, we monitor every few minutes. We come back here, and again, we have about 100 of those checks within that scenario. The next thing I wanted to talk about was our security and compliance monitoring. That is an area where we basically go and do what I would say it's kind of our static check. It's kind of more around what I'll call a traditional audit or a traditional health check, where the vulnerabilities we kind of look at, we're kind of monitoring what's happening on a very frequent basis. This is maybe we do this once a week, once a month, to kind of get a feeling on where you are. And we ship all the right coding and stuff for this one. In this case, I'm going to pull up AEQ and come through the user cases. And these are all the audits and checks we go through. And it's a couple hundred with the user cases and so on and so forth. I'm going to come down here, and you'll see critical authorization assignments. You've got your data protection ones, tracking login privileges for Unix, Linux, development, keys assigned, custom code security that wasn't really set up, identity access, defaults, integration, RFC security, of course, and some of the basic components for checking a security audit log. It's something that we use here, and we want to check. We want to make sure people aren't turning it on, turning it off, and maliciously doing anything of that nature. Coming back up here, go into a little bit more detail. And from that perspective, and you'll see critical authorizations. And we have some of the keys here, like we'll go on to this first one. And you'll see some 52 people have SAP All, SA System. We'll also click over here to our knowledge base. And what this is this kind of gives you, and it comes in the system, it gives you the opportunity of showing a little bit more detail on what we're seeing and a little bit more of an explanation of what it is, and kind of putting it into some good language and good rich content that gives you the capability of saying, okay, we understand why this is an issue and how to go about fixing it, et cetera, and you'll see that scenario there. And that really kind of goes through, and you'll see for this example where it is and some of that content from there. The next one I want to come back to is we've covered the first two. And unfortunately, I will let you know, I won't be able to cover all of these. So in this case, we're going to kind of go over, skip around a little bit. We're going to come back to the code vulnerability analyzer. That's something Brian mentioned earlier. What we do here is we kind of scan all your code. And as it comes up here, it scans all your custom code. And it kind of tells you a little bit about some of the things that are happening and some of that scenarios where you'll see authority check validation, SQL injections, et cetera, et cetera. We'll come over here and go into the overview for you and kind of show you a little bit about the vulnerability types that we scan for. And for your custom code, and we don't really scan the SAP code, we'll do patch management in a minute. We kind of go through and say SQL injection, OS commands, things, backdoors, code injections, manipulation of standard tables, critical words where we're looking for things that are backdoors or hacks, things of that nature. We kind of look for those. We have a series of these, and we keep an eye on these on a regular basis. Come into that. We'll do a quick search here. We'll go fast. And you'll see we've got a few of them. Possible condition. Somebody's getting has a hash program. And what we've done here is we'll go right in, and we have a code viewer, and we'll go right into the code and show you what we have, what the scenario here. You hear Mans, Ivan, my boss, Ivan Mans. And we'll talk a little bit over here about the incident. And again, go back to the knowledge base. It'll talk a little bit about how to go about fixing it and where you want to look at. And that's really critical. We're not just saying, oh, we have this issue. We're kind of showing you the code, showing you where it is, showing you what that issue is. And it gives you that opportunity to go through your code and fix it. And we work with the SAP products and some of the SAP code reviewers as well. And with this one, the little difference is we kind of look at it from a security and a rich content and perspective on where you need to be from a security perspective and looking at that code. And again, we do have some of the knowledge, and we kind of talk a little bit about that scenario as well. The last one I want to check on is patch management. We've seen a lot of this lately. Pull this one up here. And with patch management, what we do is we review and monitor the open patches. Everybody's familiar with security, Second Tuesday and all that stuff. And what you see here is your system and what patches are actually needed in your system. And this is a dev system, of course, and it was last downloaded. And we'll click on the hot news, and you'll see the hot news. These are the ones that are that high CVSS. These are the ones that SAP says the hot news, you need to implement them now. These need to be done in 2 weeks, and that cycling. And for everybody out there, if you haven't been able to have that opportunity and kind of take away from your normal patch management to your security patch management, separate that. I strongly encourage you to do that. I think that's a very key thing. And in this one, we'll go through, and again, we'll take a look at this note right here, and this is the Apache log one, and that's key. And what this does, it takes you to our advisory, where we kind of walk you through what it is, where it is, how to get it. And then obviously, if you want, I can click on that, and in the bottom note, it'll take you right to what I would say SAP. It'll take you right to the SAP note. Now, in our case, we actually will download these for you. We'll download these into your controller system. And what we'll do is we won't deploy them. You'll have to deploy them through your normal change control, but we will put them in your system. They'll be ranked, and you'll be able to go through them, figuring out which ones you need, where you want to go with it. Very straight with that. Now, the idea being with this one, this was pretty interesting here. This was the Apache one, and I think, Brian, you were mentioning this earlier. The one other thing we do is we do help with some patching as well from a virtual standpoint. And what we can do is we can go in here, and I'll just show you something here, and you'll see these are our templates. These are the listeners that we deploy in our, throughout the system that we're watching and listening from the security control compliance monitoring, the event monitoring scenario. And here you have the Fehl. And with this, we're going to go down to 1082 is the one I like, 1082 and 1086. And you'll see we have a whole bunch of them. And I'll double click on this one. And what you'll see here, as the system's coming up, is you'll see that we are listening in our 1086 listener that I showed you earlier with the event monitor. We're listening for these patterns, so the HTTP calls, and we're listening for these. So if you did not patch, I'm not saying you should, you shouldn't, we're saying you should, we will still be able to notify you if something suspicious around this comes out. And this is kind of our virtual patching, if you would, and while we get you there for that. So with that said, a lot of great stuff here I couldn't get to, but hopefully this kind of showed a little bit and tied into a little bit about what Brian was showing you earlier. We were talking about, again, SAP security. It's just not about profile generator anymore. It's not your father's and your mother's security. With that said, I'm going to pass it back to Brian. Hopefully you've got that going there.
Yes, indeed. Give me 1 second, and I'll get this shared again. Okay, there's me. Now let me get my screen back up. This. Oh, okay. So it still says you have control. I think you got to switch that over to me. Ah, perfect. All right, let's get this. Boom. Okay. So thank you, Bill. That was great. So just to reiterate what he kind of went over, SecurityBridge is a holistic platform for monitoring your SAP environment. Supports ABAP as the primary, but I don't think you mentioned this, but it also does support SAP HANA as a monitored system and Java instances as well. And there we go. So first basis, our role in here, what we do is we provide a streamlined implementation process for actually getting SecurityBridge installed and configured for your environment. It's a pretty straightforward process for the most part, but we are very familiar with the ins and outs of actually getting it configured to best practices and making sure that the system is running just the way it needs to be. We also offer the ability, as part of the installation process, we can install the controller in your on-premises or cloud environment, or it's something that we can actually host as a software as a solution a SaaS solution for your environment as well. At this point, I think that covers everything that we're going to go over. We'll now open it up for questions, and if anyone has any questions about, SecurityBridge or anything at this point, please let us know and we'll go over that. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions so far. So hopefully that means we did a really good job of being very clear in what we were trying to show here. But I'll give it another couple seconds. Otherwise, like I mentioned before, this presentation will be available after the call ends as well. So if there's anything that got missed during this presentation, you will be able to rewatch. For further information, also, the SecurityBridge website, which I believe should have been accessible during the sign up for this, as well as the First Basis website, will both have information regarding this or next steps if you need to contact us or for a demo or for more questions or implementation for the SecurityBridge platform. Anything else from your side, Bill?
No, I just want to thank everybody, and Brian, appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you for everyone for being here. I hope you'll have a good day and a good week.